Welcome to episode 364 of the Game Deflators podcast. My name's John, and I am joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and sometimes we talk to cool people like in this episode of the Game Deflators podcast. Today, we're also joined by Brian Colin, a noted game designer, artist, and international award-winning animator of classic arcade titles and studio founder of Game Refuge.
And of
Take it away,
course,
John.
What was that? I don't know what you just said. We'll go through our normal intro here, guys. So you can find the Game Deflators on thegamedeflators.com. You can also find us on social media at Game Deflators on X, at The Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Blue Sky. We're also on YouTube. You can hit the little bell so you know when we're on and also catch this episode. But Brian, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Brian Colin. I am probably best known as a video game designer who created games like who created childhood memories for a lot of you, because I'm an old guy. Games like Rampage and Arch Rivals and, well, a lot of old Bally Midway arcade games, the real big ones, you know. That's what I'm known for. I don't really know what else I am, other than a, grandfather now, and that keeps me really busy. But we're not here to talk about that.
Well, what we are definitely here to talk about is our first question, which is, can you tell us how you got started in the game industry?
I can. Would you like me to do that?
I guess so. And we can even go into some of that movie stuff that we talked about as well.
Okay. All right. Well, the industry was, I fell backwards into it. I was a filmmaker in college, and I did an animated film that won a lot of international awards. And out of college, I was putting myself, I had my own little ad agency doing newspaper ads for local taverns and restaurants, basically getting, beer and popcorn is what I was working for. And I saw an ad for the Bally Midway company, and it said they were looking for an animator. And I had done this award-winning animated film. So I went in there and thinking, what does a pinball company need with an animator? And they said, no, we saw your animated film. We want you to do animation and art for video games. And I thought, Pac-Man? Really? You need somebody to do that? But they were willing to pay me actual money, which was better than the free beer and popcorn I was working for. And I think I even said, I have a successful ad agency. I make over $300 a month. And they said, yeah, I think we can do better than that. So they called me up, and I was with some friends, and they offered me the job, and they told me they were going to pay me money. And I took the job, and I kind of made a joke out of it to my friends. I said, that's it. Childhood's over, man. I got a real job. And man, was I wrong. It has never been anything like a real job, and childhood has never been over. From the first week I was there, it was the absolute right place for me to be. I mean, filmmaking and animation, I'm drawing for weeks, I'm filming for nights, I'm sending away because it was film back then, sending away the film, you're getting it back. It's months of process. And all of a sudden I'm working at a place where I'm creating the characters in the morning and I'm playing them in the afternoon. It was wonderful. And the first game I ever worked on was Discs of Tron. It was a new development group, Bally Midway's. They had only done Tron before that. And it was an incredible game. I thought Pac-Man was going to be what I was doing. And I'm doing a 3D effect in just a mind-blowing, if you've ever seen the arcade game Discs of Tron. It was a wonderful place, and I fell backwards into it.
Very nice. And
that's awesome.
And then I guess you can tell us a little bit about some of the other titles in there too, because I know we're not going to talk too heavily on some of like things like Rampage and General Chaos and all of that. So maybe dive in a little bit there and how you got started with those pieces.
Well, I've done about 90 games. So you got to be careful what you ask for, because once we go off on that tangent,
we'll limit you to two on that one.
There at the beginning, I worked on Discs of Tron. But as an animator, I was working on, like the other animators at that time, I was working on every game that Bally Midway was doing in-house. So I'm working on Disc of Tron while I'm working on Spy Hunter. Because every programmer only worked on one game for like 9 months to a year, but animators got to work on everything. So I'm working on games where some of the programmers were very particular about what they wanted, and I could contribute ideas. Other guys are like, let's try this. No, that didn't work. Let's try this. No, that didn't work. Those weren't fun to work on. So I became a game designer out of self-defense because I didn't want to work on anything unless it was going to get produced. So games like Disc of Tron and Spy Hunter and Demolition Derby and Sarge and One by One. I mean, they had and back then, and I just got to go this way just for a second to let you know, back then it was the Wild West. No middle management, upper management left us alone. We were kids looking at each other going, can we do this? Who's going to stop us? It was that much fun and peer to peer. Nobody was anybody else's boss. Management was leaving us alone. Everybody would walk from their cubicle over to your cubicle. You'd do the same. Hey, why don't you try this? Oh, that doesn't work right there. Hey, what? So it was just a magical time. I was only there a few months and there was a game out on test that was bombing. But the gameplay was really neat, but it really looked like every other Galaga sort of space game. So I did a little guy in a red, little cartoon character of a guy, and management said, okay, we like it. Reskin the whole game. I'd only been there a few months. The game went back out on test, made money that time, went into production. So that's how open everything was back then. And yeah, I don't feel bad, but it was so much easier back then. And it was a wonderful time for me, especially, to fall into this industry and just, wow, creative challenges, getting to do art, getting to do animation. It was the whole package for me. I've been very lucky. I've been blessed.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful thing to be a part of. I mean, we've talked to like Paul Niemeyer before, and he mentioned like very kind of like a similar vibe of just like being in it when it was just getting off the ground and like everybody just kind of freewheeling and the ideas and like being able to really be creative and stuff. Like that's all super cool. I wish I could be there and see that in person.
Did you and Paul cross paths when you were at Bally Midway? Interesting, because I know you know each other.
Actually, we're buds now.
Yeah.
And we actually, some of the games I worked on, he was in a different department when I started. I think he started a few months before me. We were in different. When I started, we weren't even in the main building. We were in a little building off to the side. That's one of the reasons they left us alone so much. And he was in the pinball department. In the early days, the pinball department did graphics and the headers and the bezels and the control panels. They did all the graphics. When I started designing games, they asked me to do the graphics for my games. But by then, Paul was out of house. But it turned out, we found out years later that we worked on several games together, even though at the time we never met.
Nice. That's coincidence.
Nice. So, like, what are the games you think you're most proud of that you did in that time?
In that time, it's got to be Rampage. Rampage, I wanted to do stuff that had never been done before, and they told me no. And basically, and then Rampage went on to become, we had to fight for it, and it went on to become the highest earning video game of the time. So that I'm incredibly proud of. If you're talking about my entire career, it's different games, because I'm proud of every game I've ever made, whether it's a bomb or it's a hit. I'm proud of for different reasons. Like the first game they ever called, now Bally Midway in those days was never calling anybody a designer. You're a programmer, you're an artist, you're a mechanical engineer. And even though we were all adding design elements to what we were working on, I had come up with a game that I wanted to do really big characters. And I came up with a game, kind of a Dungeons and Dragons theme. And they were showing Nolan Bushnell, the father of video games through the offices one day. And I had a game that was almost ready for test. And management walked by and said, and this is our new game, Zwackery. And this is the designer, Brian Colin. I went out and changed my business cards the very next day. And then after that, the next game I did was Rampage after that. And it was, so Zwackery I'm really proud of because I did it without being called a designer until I was done with it. And so I'm really proud of that. And I can talk more about different games I'm proud of for different reasons, but we haven't got time for that. I mean, we've got to end this in like 3 or 4 hours, right?
Yeah, maybe 6. Yeah. 6-part series. So I guess kind of sticking with Rampage, though. I mean, there was a movie and everything. So can you maybe walk us? I mean, I'm sure that was a proud moment as well.
And you're a filmmaker, so you must have been like...
I was ecstatic. It was 30 years after I made the game. When I first heard it was going to be made, I, of course, wrote to Warner Brothers, said, I've made Rampage. 10 years later, I did Rampage World Tour. I've got, notes and everything. I can help you with everything. And of course, I got the don't call us. Thank you for your offer. We'll call you sort of polite note. And then I heard The Rock attached. So, wow, that could be pretty cool. And then I heard they were shooting in Chicago, and one of the casting directors got a hold of me and said, you want to do this? I said, absolutely. So I spent a couple of weeks running around as an extra in 98-degree heat in this middle of the summer in Chicago. And the assistant director said, I hear you made the game. Can we shoot a cameo? Well, okay, then. Doesn't get any better than that. Running through the streets, pretending that behind a car with a camera mounted on it. And again, 98-degree heat in a wool suit because I was dressed as a businessman. And that was hysterical. Couldn't get any better. Then I get a call from a producer who said, hey, you want to come down and meet everybody in the during the last week of shooting? They were fantastic. Everybody was wonderful. I got to see everything that was going on. Taking a picture with the producers and the director at the end of the day, and literally The Rock and Naomi Harris were filming 300 yards away the end of the movie, if you've seen the movie. And all of a sudden, stop, I got to be part of this. The Rock comes running over, Naomi Harris comes running over. They're treating me like royalty, and I'm like a 5-year-old kid going, whoa, man, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. A year after that, when the movie is edited and I'm here getting calls from friends in LA, we've seen test screenings. Your face is 15 feet tall and the Sears Tower is coming down on your head. I got to go to the premiere. I'm sitting there at the premiere with my wife and I'm going, okay, here it comes. So at the after party, the first thing the producer says to me when he walks up is, yeah, Warner came in 3 weeks ago and cut 30 minutes out and you ended up on the cutting room floor.
But I can't cut the experience.
It happens.
So I never got to see it. I've got footage of me doing it from other extras who filmed it on the day, but I've never got to see it. But they were good. They interviewed me on the DVD, which is, can't beat that.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't
cool.
get better than that.
So what you're saying is we need
it was a wonderful experience. I think I really like what they did with the movie. They kept the heart in George because I didn't want it to just be a kaiju monster movie. Because for me, Rampage, one of the reasons management didn't want us to do the game. We had to fight for it. They're like, you can't be the bad guy. You can't eat people. It's like, they're not the bad guy. They're victims. They didn't ask to be turned into monsters. They're just trying to stay alive. And in the original game, the human version of George was me. The human version of Lizzie was my wife. And the human version of Ralph was the programmer, co-designer, Jeff Nauman. So the fact that they kept the heart in George in the movie made it okay for me.
I think we need a Rampage director's cut or something like that.
Right? Right? Call Warner
Designer's cut.
Tell them we need
Call right now. We got influence. So
That's awesome, though. I'm so happy. Like, that's such a cool story. I'm so glad that you got to do that. That's so neat.
It was wonderful. Like I say, I have been blessed. I have been very lucky to be doing this my whole life. I'm still doing it. The grandkids running around now are making it a little tougher during the day, but it's still it's wonderful on both ends.
Do they play any Rampage on a cabinet? I got my 3-year-old.
They're 2-year-old.
So
They're 2-year-olds. They're not
not
they will,
quite there.
I've got a couple of touchscreen games that I've done that they play a lot, but I'm not comfortable with them standing on a bar stool playing Rampage in the arcade version.
Yeah, my 3-year-old now is sitting on a bar stool upstairs, and he'll play Rampage on occasion. So he calls it the calls it, I think, the dinosaur monkey game is what he calls it.
There you go.
So,
as long as they're having fun, I don't care what they call it.
Working title. Well, so kind of going back into video games, what do you view as the most difficult part in the process of creating a game?
The idea is the easy part. The tricky part is trying to figure out a way to turn it into something real. And for me, that's, even though the art's fun and the animation's fun and the idea's fun, the creative challenge of somebody saying, okay, this is all we got to work with. How do I get this to fit into that? Even that creative challenge is fun for me. And the most difficult part, though, honestly, once if I think about that question, management. No, honestly, those early days, like I said, very little middle management, upper management was they were nice, they were great guys, but management over the years and over the last 40 years of doing this, whether they're clients or whoever, at some point they're going to want to stick their hand back in, or some managers do want to stick their hand, or they've got other things that they didn't tell you at the beginning that, well, now we want to change this, or you're doing a space game, let's put a witch on a broom. It's like, wait a minute, now come on, what are we doing? So the most difficult thing is dealing with management, just because they're paying for it. So, hey, it's their product, but that doesn't mean they understand it. They've got a whole other list of things they've got to worry about that aren't necessarily what I need to worry about, because my job is to make something for the guy who's buying the arcade game, especially back then, and then the player, who are both, I'm making this game for both of them. And the guy who's buying the game wants the player off in 30 seconds, and the player wants to live forever. And I got to make them both happy. So that was the challenge of the arcade games, and management stood in the way. Not stood in the way. Actually, I'm just saying that's the most difficult part, because everything else peer-to-peer was fun, but it was work. But the most difficult thing, if I had to come up with one thing, is management. And I think I've said that way too many times. You can cut that all out.
I think we're good. Unless you really want it out there.
No.
I think we agree. I think Ryan and I would 100% agree that management's usually
yeah. Fight the man.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, I don't want to fight them. I just want to make them happy.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's the hard part, is making them happy.
They write the paycheck at the end of the day.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, let's see. What do we got
All
next
right, so you had an opportunity to create games and, cabinets, consoles. You've done, touchscreen games. You've run the full gamut. You've done video games. What has been the most difficult to work on of all the platforms that you've made games on?
One thing once we formed our own company, Game Refuge, after getting out of the arcade side, went to Sega Genesis, then went to 3DO, then went to casino games. One thing I never did with my company is say, we're going to do this platform and run. And that may have been a bad business idea, but for me, it's always been about, what do you need from me? What can I do to give you something more than you're asking for? And the platform really never made a difference. For me, the platform was somebody else's, the programmers, who we got to hire, what we got to get in terms to work on it. That's just part of setting up what we're doing, which is making the game. I've never, usually in those days, moving to console, the publisher would give you all the tools you need or tell you had to use specific stuff. And I would go out and find people that could do that well. And so for me, on the idea side, on the design side, I've never had a problem with a platform ever. I can't say which was the worst because it's never been anything I've concerned myself about. I design around, you give me a box to push against, I'm going to find a way to make it better than what you think it can be. And I've never had a problem with any platform I've ever done. I've never had more of a problem with any platform that I've had to work with. I mean, obviously, if you work with something more than once, it's easier the next time. But I can't think of anything that, I wouldn't do that again. I don't know if that really answers your question.
No, it does.
That answer. I mean, a lot of times you think from the outside, that there are definite answers, and somebody's like, oh man, that Genesis just had my number, but that's not really the case. Like, there's many hats, and the hats that you were wearing, you were working on different problems than those, and often having the right people for the job in a collaborative effort, that is the right answer.
That is, the team is the most important thing. I mean, I get credit as the designer, and I'm doing this podcast because my name, but everything was a team effort. The arcade days, maybe 3 guys are working on a game for 9 months. Rampage, 3 of us, 9 months, we did a game. Later on, as many as 15 to 40 people on games I've done, but the team is what makes it. As a designer, probably one of the things that no one ever thinks about, hey, I want to be a game designer. I got to learn this, or I got to learn these tools. One of the things you got to think about is, how do I keep everybody pumped? How do I keep everybody excited about this thing and thinking about this and putting ego aside? Game design being a game designer is as much being a cheerleader as you are being a director. So the team is important. Going back to the platform, I mean, the hardware is never difficult if you've got good support. And again, part of the team. If someone is saying, hey, this is what you need, and this is what we built for you, or this is what we will build for you, and whatever limitations of the hardware, limitations are inspirations. That's where Rampage came from. They said, no, this hardware can't do this. They said, no, you can't do this. And Brian, what are you going to do? You want animating backgrounds? They're not going to pay for it. We can't do it. Brian, but Brian, you can move a rectangle. What are you going to do with a moving rectangle? So I looked at Sharon, another animator, and said, okay, building, big rectangle. Move it into itself. That's a building falling down. And what knocks down buildings but big monsters? And it's just like, out of that, we all, 4 or 5 of us sitting in the room, we got next year's #1 game. Went to our boss, went out there. Yes, we got this. No. So went over his head. Yeah, went over his head. Head of engineering. I love it. It's hysterical. It's great. So we can do it. No. Can't do this. You're eating police. You're being the No. Top 3 guys in the company. Jeff and I started it. We worked on it just to prove out that we could make the hardware do what they said it couldn't do. And 3 weeks later, the top 3 guys got fired by Bally. Nothing to do with us. And the new guy coming in sent a memo around the week before he started and said, I'm from the retail industry. I'm coming in on Monday. Everybody's job is safe. It's just an upper management change. I've got an open door policy. You can guess who was sitting with his back against his door on his very first day when he walked in on that Monday. I pitched in the game. He said, okay. And like I said, it went on to break every earnings record of any game that had ever been done. But if it hadn't been for him, it wouldn't have happened.
At some point, you got to.
So,
yeah.
No, like I said, I've been very lucky. Over the years.
Yeah, I think that's good management right there. At some point, you have to believe in your employees, right, and what they're trying to pitch to you.
Right. He was, Well, yeah, he was open to it. He was from a different industry, and he didn't have a blind eye that maybe some or blinders on that maybe the pinball guys, because basically the earlier guys were pinball guys, and they were new to this whole video game world. And I mean, I can't blame them for saying, no, we want to do this, don't want to do this game because it's risky. Because back then, you guys are too young to remember, but when arcades were coming into communities would freak. That's going to bring in a bad element. It's going to bring in bikers and hippies and all, just like it was. And so there were communities trying to stop arcades from coming. So I can't blame the earlier management for saying, no, we don't want to do this. Because that was the 1982. That was, oh man, no, we got to tread lightly.
How the times have changed.
Some Music Man vibes.
I know us growing up, it was video games cause violence. When Brian was putting out games, it was they cause hippies.
Right. So, okay, what's next?
Sorry, I can't get over that one. So just looking at the present, what is Game Refuge working on today that people can get excited about?
Well, I hope you'll get excited about it. I'm excited about it. When we left Bally Midway and formed our own company, the first game we did for Electronic Arts was General Chaos, which was a Sega Genesis game. It was, I believe it's been called the first real-time strategy battle game, video game, and certainly the funniest. And we're working on the sequel to that. We've been working on it for a while. It's a passion project. No client is funding this one. This is a self-funded project that we're working on. We're about 3/4 of the way through it. It's going to be called General Chaos Major Snafu. And we're excited about it. We're getting close to the end. It's been one of these projects that, is back burner while we're working on something else, but then we pull in when we've got a chance to work on it again. So it's been a while that we've been working on it, but it's looking great and it's almost there.
What are you releasing it on? Do you know yet?
It's going to be a PC game first. We're talking to somebody about doing a PlayStation version as well. The main problem is, without going into everything, because it's got its own story behind it. But the main problem is we've been remote for a while, which means we've got part-time people working on it, and we've got people that can work on it now but can't work on it later. And some of the people working on it have got day jobs. We're going to be doing a crowdfunder here in the weeks to come, so that we can get everybody into one office and finish it fast. Because remote is not the way to do a game. You want to be able to turn around and not say to a cardboard woman, "Hey, what do you think of that?" You want everybody in one room. So we're going to bring all the part-time people in full-time, and we're going to finish this up in probably 20 to 30 weeks once we get everybody into one office.
Nice.
So, but that's where we're at with that. And other than that, that's the only thing we got going on right now.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit more about like how you've seen, the change in the industry over time, and kind of like, when you were speaking to us on the phone, you mentioned that it's just kind of a lot of chefs in the kitchen nowadays. And like, it's definitely turned around from, 3 guys, 9 months, Rampage.
Well, and again, I don't really follow the industry. I'm a guy who clients call me up, say, "Can you make a game for this particular audience?" I pick their brains. I make what I can make, and everybody's happy with it. I've been very lucky that way. I don't follow the industry. About the most I do when I'm thinking about a new game is I will look around to make sure there's nothing like what I want to do. But what I do know about the industry is that, like you already mentioned, 400 people working on something for 4 years. That's great. You've got financing for that. That's tremendous. I've got friends my age, whose kids have entered the industry because they were my neighbors. They got into the industry, and they're making more than I ever did, but they spend 2 years doing water effects. And I got to do everything. I got to do voices in the game. I got to do the animation. I got to come up with it. And back in those early days, because it was just a few people, and they weren't games that you played for months. They were games that you played for minutes. I got to do a lot more. I mean, I've made over 90 games over the past 42 years. So I can't really speak to what's changed in the industry because I don't really know that much other than what you guys know. You guys probably know more than I do. 400 people working on something for 5 years and then it doesn't get finished. Or companies come into town, hire everybody, and then when the game finishes, they fire everybody. My little company has been chugging along anywhere from 6 employees to as many as 40. And we do it the way I did it back in the day. Everybody gets involved. Everybody, if they're not a designer when they come to work for me, they're going to be a designer before they leave. And a lot of my alumni are at some of the biggest companies in the world. So, and they still treasure those times that we had together. So I've been very lucky, and I wish I had a better answer for you about the difference. But my little company still works the way we used to work back then.
Sounds like we should
Well,
get
and
some job applications coming your way here from people.
Well, I think that that's a terrific answer because, like, again, this is a studio that has done it and has a long record and lots of games under their belt, and they're doing it their own way. Like, you don't need 400 people in 4 years. You could do it with a couple of guys in a garage. I mean, Silksong just blew up, and that's just been like Team Cherry's real small. I think it's like 2 or 3 guys, and it's they're doing it their way. So it's like it's an inspiration to be able to hear somebody say, you can kind of do it however you want to do it. I mean, as long as you can, work it and be successful and smart, it's not like it's gonna happen overnight or be easy. You may not be able to fall into it with an old pinball company anymore, but it can still be done. You can still do it that way.
It's corny, but follow your heart. It is just because it's fun, just because you love it, doesn't mean it's not work. And you're going to make mistakes. I mean, my advice to everybody that I talk to, indies especially, because I'm an indie now. I've been an indie ever since I left Bally Midway. Do that much. Don't try to do Lord of the Rings, okay? Do that much. Save your good ideas. Do the next one, because it's more important when you keep trying to keep a team together, get something done. Don't try to do too much that this guy's going to drop out or this guy has to move to Arizona or Seattle or wherever. It's like, keep your team together as much as you can, keep everybody enthused, and that's start small. Then put what you learn, good and bad, mistakes that you've made, into correct them in the next thing. It's better to keep the team together. It's better to get something done than to say, I worked on this for a year and a half and it really would have been great, but we didn't get it finished. When I hire somebody, I'd rather see some little game that they made with a couple of friends than a reel that they put together at school that 50 people ever all worked on and it looks great. But what did you finish? What did you do? So yeah, if those applications come in, show me the stuff that you've made with your buddies.
Nice. So I know you don't keep up with the current industry, but we see a lot of companies pumping millions of dollars into video game development. And there's others, like Ryan had mentioned with Silksong, smaller teams creating masterpieces with these smaller budgets. So in your opinion, what is the most important piece of a video game? Is it the story? Is it the gameplay, the graphics, or is it this nice happy blend of all of that?
You know the answer.
I know the answer. But, some people might not know the answer.
Well, you summed it up. I mean, I would have had a good answer if you hadn't ended your sentence with,
I'll edit this out. You can.
Is it all of those things? Or is it all of those things? Of course it's all of those things. I mean, sound doesn't get enough recognition, I think, in video games. A good sound mix of, and that's really hard to do. You're putting music or background to something, and you don't know what the player's going to do, but you've got to make it meld, and you've got to, go there with it. Animation, is it funny? Does it sell what you're trying to sell? Is it frightening if you need it to be frightening? I mean, obviously with my games, humor has always been the thing that I relied on for my games. But if it's got to be horror, is it horrific? And timing and tuning. A good game programmer will make it so, the animation is one element and the sound is one element and the movement and the controls. But what controls did you pick? And why did you pick them? And is it intuitive? All of those things got to come together to make a great game. So it's never any one thing. It's not what hardware was this on. Well, this is what I say. Hardware guys may say something different, but it's not necessarily what hardware it's on, but it is a mix of all of those things that makes a game great. And ultimately, it's the player who decides.
Yeah, I was going to say it can be subjective as well, right? One person's view on maybe older retro style games might be, hey, this has really bad graphics, but the gameplay is really great nowadays, right? So, but yeah, I definitely agree with you, and that is the correct answer, a happy medium.
Wonder where he got it from.
What do you mean, where did I get it from? I wrote the question.
All right. So, when you have, when you got started and you were working on this small team, I mean, you were kind of like learning it. And now that you've been experienced and gone through, these different sizes of teams, I mean, what do you think is something that like maybe gets lost in the sauce when you're going between like a smaller team to a larger team? Like, what are I mean, I guess communication's probably the easy answer for that one, because when it's just you and two other guys, it's just look over your shoulder and say what needs to be said. But I mean, is there anything else that like gets multiplied the more people you have that makes certain things more difficult outside of just communication?
Or the less people that you have.
Okay, so now you're going to answer the question as part of the question, because you know the answer to that one too. Yes, communication is the problem with a bigger team. I mean, the biggest we've ever had working on a game was about like I said, about 40 people working, and it's a whole lot harder to communicate with 40 people when it's kind of like it's not as bad as remote, because remote's horrible. Remote is, we've got to have these group meetings, and it's got to be a Zoom call, and it's got to be everybody trying to get everything out in this hour or 2 hours once a week or 3 times a week, whatever it is. It's games. When a team is having fun, the game's going to be fun. And when if there's more, okay, we got to have this meeting now. Everybody stop what you're doing. We're all going to come in here and we're all going to talk about this now. And we're all going to get this, even if you're in one room or even if you're in one big office, the more people make it. For me, again, I don't know how other companies do it, but for me, it's harder. And you hit on it in the question. Communication is a lot harder when there's more people. Prefer, like Rampage World Tour was like 16 people. Equal number of animators and artists and programmers. And that was a perfect number. I mean, in terms of getting a lot of content created and a lot of fun stuff put together, your lead programmer puts the whole thing together, but having other people help, and the lead animator and everything, but having other people do what they do, and then everybody stays excited about it. Everybody stays pumped. That was probably my favorite number of people working. Is anywhere more than 16 for me was, okay, we need this for this particular client's project. But anywhere between 6 and 16 people has been my favorite game groups after becoming an indie. Like I say, the early days, maybe 3 to 5 people worked on a game, and that was wonderful too. I mean, that was wonderful. But I don't know. I'm rambling now, and I answered.
No, I like that too. I mean, it's enough people that you get multiple opinions. It's not just like the one person in charge of this aspect and it's kind of all on you. Like everybody likes a collaborator and everybody likes to be able to have maybe a bit of choice of what they can do instead of having to do everything, or people can really shine in their specific area or bring this one thing that, like, hey, I went rock climbing, I can make a better mountain than you, like let me do the mountain, or whatever the case.
Well, yeah, and again, that's where I say when I hire somebody, I tell them, you may be a programmer, you may be an animator, you're gonna become a designer because I'm going to need your input. I'm going to need you to be thinking about the game, not be thinking about what I got to do to create the art or what I got to do to make this animate the way I've been asked to do it. I need you to be thinking about the game as a player because that's feedback that makes the game better. A lot of for me, game design, people will ask, oh, this is a collaboration or is it you're a director, and you tell people, it's like, no, it's always a collaboration. And a lot of time it's conflict. I think this. No, I think this. Well, why do you think this? Well, why do you think that? No, 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 no. But if there's mutual respect, you look at it a different way. You look at it a different way. You look at it a different way. Ego gets in the way. You get rid of that ego and you're thinking about what you need to make the game good. All of a sudden, no, no, no. And then everybody in the room goes, and then you've got it.
Now,
and that is one of those moments that makes everything worthwhile on any game.
does that particular part get easier when you have a handful of people? I would assume because there's less people to kind of disagree on a point.
Or like I said, it's easier when you've got fewer people, because when you get bigger groups, it is harder because some people feel that, okay, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to be embarrassed, or I'm going to say something just because I want to be contributing. And it becomes less about, hey, we're all thinking about the same thing. And it's harder with a huge group. And I understand that bigger companies need middle management, and then middle management becomes one of those things that, oh, what is this guy filtering? And what is this guy filtering? So I've always had a small group, and, it's like I say, 40 people is about the most I've ever had. And that, we did some really cool stuff with that. But for me, that wasn't as fun as a more intimate group, like 8 people or 16 people.
And I'm going to answer my own question here. I imagine that the smaller a team, right? Bandwidth is really what becomes a bigger issue, less so in communication. Would that be correct or no?
Well, I don't know what you mean about bandwidth, because that
Bandwidth in the terms of having too much on a plate. So projects take a little longer, not being able to move as quickly or agile because you don't have as many hands involved in the process.
no, that's not true.
Not true at all. Okay.
No.
See,
No.
I should have just asked it.
No, a smaller group gets stuff done as quicker as a big group because, and again, but that's my experience, because as a designer, I'm creating, the idea is the easy part. Like I said, the tricky part is figuring out how you're going to get it done. And as a designer, I know who I've got to work with. I know that this guy's going to say it's going to take me 4 days and it's going to take him 2. I know this guy, he's going to say it's going to take me 3 days and it's going to take him 5. That's part of your job as the lead, to know that and plan on that as you're assigning stuff. I've never found that bandwidth has been hurt by smaller groups. And if anything, I would say the opposite, because as a lead, I know what this guy's capable of and this guy's capable of. And I purposely give this guy something that he may not be as good as yet, but I'm going to need him to be that good and better at that for the next project. And I'll give him that if time allows. So I'm straying away from where you were going.
Sounds like good project management is also necessary, of course, within the industry.
And that's what a game designer is.
Yeah.
For me, and again, this isn't the case for big companies. Project management is its own thing. But for indies and for guys who want to be a designer in a small group or start their own thing, you are going to need to know project management. You are going to have to keep the team involved, and you are going to have to put your ego aside and take the input from the people that you trust, that you've hired, that you're working with, that you trust. That mutual respect is the most important thing.
Amazing words. And we're good segue to say, do you have any parting words beyond what you just said, which I felt would have actually been a good ending?
Okay, you can end this on anything, but thank you for reaching out to me. Thank you, give me a chance to ramble about all this stuff. I love talking about these days. This was a process I've been perfecting, and that's probably the wrong word, but I've been doing for 40 some years. And I love talking about the process of doing it. And there's not enough time in the, what do we have? 10 minutes to do this? There's not enough time in days to cover that much time and that many projects and all the great stories, most of which I couldn't share.
We'll have an uncut version down the road.
We'll have an uncut version sometime. But thanks for letting me share what I did. I appreciate
Definitely
it.
Appreciate it, Brian.
No, thanks so much for being here. I mean, it's so great to be able to hear some of these stories and like let people be able to hear, different sides of gaming, because, in the news, we only see so much, but like hearing a legendary person from the industry being able to, tell you firsthand and show you a whole other side to what gaming could be. And I love it. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for reaching out, guys. I appreciate it. Like I said, obviously, I like talking about this.
Ryan, you forgot to add international award-winning legendary.
Oh, yes. I am an international award-winning animator, and I'm in the
White Castle Hall of Fame.
I'm in the White Castle Hall of Fame. Oh, we didn't. One of the ones
we got to end on that.
Let's end on that one.
All right. One of the games I'm really proud of is a game that was a full contact poker deathmatch racing battle game on rocket powered, heavily armed snowmobiles in a 9 square mile area in a perpetual winter in a Cthulhu mythos reality.
What game is this?
Arctic Stud Poker Run.
Arctic's what?
While we were working on this, it was on the early Garage Games Torque engine before it was the Torque engine. It was an incredible game. It was a LAN game in the early 2000s. It's my favorite game to play. It's hysterical. But
oh my gosh.
While we were working on it, and it was a new thing for the animators, I said to the animation group, I said, okay, let's see what this, the capabilities of the system are, create some recognizable international landmarks. And one of the guys, instead of doing the Taj Mahal, did a White Castle hamburger joint, which out in the out east in America, you know what that looks like. And at the time, White Castle had just started their Cravers Hall of Fame thing. So we sent it in, and yes, myself and 2 animators are in the White Castle Hall of Fame. And then when you bought the game in the box version, it came with coupons for sliders, which I love. White Castle was great for that. So yes, I am in the White Castle Hall of Fame.
I feel like we should have used that in the introduction today.
Okay. Well, let's talk backwards. And go back to the beginning.
By Brian Colin, White Castle Hall of Famer.
Okay, there you go.
There we
go.
Yeah, we'll edit it.
Video game thing. Everybody loves a good slider.
That's great. We got to check this game out now, John. I sense a future game deflation.
I just moved my websites from one host to another, and we haven't got the Arctic Studs site back up again. But once I get it back up here in the next few weeks, I give the game away for free.
Okay.
It is a ridiculous land game. It is hysterical.
You'll have to shoot me a text when it's up, and then we'll check it out.
I will.
Definitely appreciate it. All right. Well, I think it's a good note to end it on. So again, thanks Brian for jumping on. Definitely appreciate it.
Okay.
This has been episode 364 of the Game Deflators podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks
And
for
I'm Brian.
And you're Brian. And thanks for let's do that again. I'm just kidding. Thanks for listening and watching.